Namaskar. I'm so happy to be here. Actually, Bangalore is one of my favorite places because I always feel at home, and such a large number of people who are very serious in Bangalore come to my events. So I'm very glad to be here. I recognize some old friends in the audience also. So that's very nice. Thank you for a good introduction and for inviting me. This book is what I will talk about, The Battle for Sanskrit. Today is the first talk publicly I have given on this book, ever. First talk. It is not officially released yet. The official date is January 21, when bookstores in major cities will have the book. You can order it online and they'll deliver it after that date. But unofficially, you can have it today. Yeah. Now, there were so many attempts to block this book, ban this book, prevent it from coming. So many petitions asking the publishers to ban my books, because I discussed what I'm writing in the Thailand Sanskrit Congress, then in Delhi University, then in Goa. And so people who feel scared of what I'm saying because I'm critical of their views decided that intellectual freedom only works for them, it should not work for me. So they petitioned, and many of you helped me fight that.
Yes.
So the petitioners came up, first they came up with all these allegations, that didn't work, then they came up with another allegation, that didn't work. Then they set up a petition asking the publishers to withdraw my books. And they got 250 signatures of intellectuals who are leftist, Marxist, this kind of people. And then my supporters put another petition, my side, counter petition, that books should come out, and we got 11,000 signatures. Right? But they did not stop. They were embarrassed. Then they quietly started lobbying the publisher privately, putting pressure. And so this is why I stopped discussing it in public, because I thought every time I say something, they twist it to stop my book. So I will wait until we have several thousand copies printed. So the mere fact that we have the book available means we have won the first battle of Sanskrit already. And I thank all the supporters who helped make this happen. Because what the other side realized is that you cannot silence us, because we have the support of the public at the grassroots. They have support of the big media, all the big TV and some big newspapers, because they're all part of the pseudo-left kind of people. So what I will talk about in this book, there are three parts. First is, what is the Kurukshetra, where Sanskrit studies, Indology, our history, our itihas, our philosophy, all the Sanskrit texts, these things are studied internationally. And this Kurukshetra is controlled by the West even today. Even though we say we are not colonized, but in the study of our own civilization, we are still following what they tell us. Our own intellectuals are following. I want to talk about that. That's a large part of what I'll say. Second part is, what are the specific examples of major problems in the Western study of our culture, of our Sanskriti? What are the big issues There are big issues in the way they study Ramayana, the way they study Vedas, the way they study history of Sanskrit, the way they depict the grammar of Sanskrit, all kind of distortions. So that is a big topic. Half of this book is on that. Examples of very specific things in major chapters, which are serious issues, and they affect our identity, they affect our unity, they affect our dharma. They are not sort of simple technical issues. And the third area is, what do we do? What's our strategy? These are the three things. Now the first, the description of the Kurukshetra. I want to start by explaining that traditionally, at the time of Shankara and before that, and even after that for a few centuries, one of the strongest things we had was the Purvapaksh system of studying the other. When you study the other, you know the other thinking. He cannot confuse you. He cannot make a fool out of you because you understand him. You can connect the dots and you see the big picture. Everything he's doing, you know what it means. What he's saying, but what it means. That is what Purvapaksh teaches you. And then you can give an Uttar Paksh, you can respond. You cannot give Uttar Paksh, you should not give Uttar Paksh without first doing Purva Paksh. So, we all know that was a great system. Why is there no Purva Paksh now? Today, when I ask traditional scholars, why have you not done a Purva Paksh of these Western Indologies that I am doing? They don't have an answer. They haven't done it. Why was there no Purva Paksh of early Christianity when Christianity came? Of Islam when Islam came? No Purva Paksh. Of Marxism, of postmodernism, Western feminism, all kind of stuff. Why no Purva Paksh? It is not enough to say we dismiss them, we get angry at them, or we ignore them, or we join them. That is not Purva Paksh. Purva Paksh means that without getting angry, without dismissing them, in a very respectful way, in a very intellectual way, you explain what are they saying, what is their logic, and what is our response. You have to do it like that. Now, when the Syrian Christians came in 4th century, there was no Purva Paksh done that we know of. So we did not understand Christianity because we never did Purva Paksh. We just thought they are some regular people. So when 1,000 years later, when the Portuguese came, we could not understand how to deal with them. What is their mentality? What is their politics? Who do they work for? What are they trying to do? We did not understand it. In fact, some of you may know this or not know this, but the admiral of the Vijayanagar Empire fleet on the Malabar coast invited the Portuguese naval head, invited him as a friend to help him fight another Indian. We didn't understand what we are getting into. This is the beginning of the Portuguese takeover, because we did not understand Christianity. And of course, once the Portuguese established, then many other Europeans started coming. That was the beginning of the colonial period, with the Portuguese arrival. And the Portuguese arrival was done by our people, facilitating. In fact, when Vasco da Gama came, they did not know how to go around Africa to reach India. Europeans had no knowledge. So Columbus was sent across the Pacific to reach India, and Vasco da Gama went around Africa to reach India. And Vasco da Gama hired a Gujarati sailor to be the captain and navigate and show him the way. We brought these guys in. We had not done enough Purva Paksh on them. Then, when Islam came, they came to Sindh in the 8th century. Even though we were superior militarily to the Arabs. We were superior financially. We were certainly superior intellectually. We did not do a total Purva Paksha. Who are these people? We didn't send our scholars there to study them and come back, like they were doing Purva Paksha on us. We were too arrogant, too complacent, too confident, dismissive. So what happened is, even though India had a lot of trade contact with Arabs, we were not studying their ideology. We were not understanding their mindset, mentality, their psychology. The Purva Paksha requires. So this caused a lot of confusion about Islam. And from 8th century, it is 600 years later that the Mughal Empire comes to Delhi, settled down. So from Sindh to Mughal Empire, it's several centuries. We don't know intellectually who these guys are. We just know they come on horses, they're bad, they're cruel, they do this, they do that, they fight, we fight them. But there's no overall strategy telling us, what is their capability, how many of them are there, who's Turk and who's Arab and who's Persian, are they fighting each other, can we exploit that? We just didn't have that. We were not bothered. Then more recently, when the East India Company comes, we think they're a bunch of traders. We just don't understand more than that because we never bothered. But if you look at the East India Company records in London, all the time they have these strategies. They're developing these strategies, they're debating them in the British Parliament very openly. But we are just sitting there until something happens to us. Until Gandhi published a thing called Hind Swaraj around 1906, 1909, little book, which is his Purva Paksha of the British rule. Very late from the time they came, in 1900 and something. Until then, we really had not done a real thorough analysis or a strong analysis of them. In fact, Ram Mohan Roy was working for them almost. He's converted to kind of pseudo-Christianity, sort of thinking along their lines. It's people like Vivekananda, people like Gandhi, who then started returning the gaze, looking at them from our point of view. So we've had very late responses to the foreign ideology and very incomplete. Now, Shankara in the 9th century does thorough Purva Paksha. Abhinav Gupta in the 10th century, Ramanuja in the 12th century, Madhava in the 14th century. By then, Christianity is solid, Islam is solid, but in their Purva Paksha, they ignore Purva Paksha of Islam and Christianity. Why? We should have been teaching our people about that all the time. What I'm doing in being different and these kind of books, they should have been doing it all along. But there was some reason that they hesitate to do Purva Paksha of the foreigners. They only do Purva Paksha of each other. This is a very interesting thing. According to one account, the British fought 111 wars using Indian soldiers. Please note this. British fought 111 different wars in India and Africa and here and there, China, various places, using Indian soldiers as the 90%, 95% of their soldiers. It was easy for them to recruit Indians. Very easy for Indians to go work for them. But in China, when the British had a brief period of occupation, they failed to raise even one regiment of Chinese soldiers. Look at the difference. In India, they could raise lakhs of people who would, for the right salary, work for them. And in China, they failed to raise even one regiment of Chinese soldiers who would work under the British command. Difference. Why is it that we are so easily sold out? And we are not able to cognize the other. We just don't understand it. So, what is the reason for failure to do Purva Paksha in the Hindu psychology? I'll give you some possible answers. I don't know, but these are some possible answers. One is that the there are certain people who are, I would call it micro-optimized. I only think of myself, mine, my family, a very narrow view. Why should I care about anything else? So individual and small scale optimization and completely abandoning the big collective interest. That's a tendency we've had. Another is certain philosophies, certain interpretations of Vedanta have made certain people world negating, which means the world is mithya, the world is maya anyway, so why does it matter? Who cares? This sort of an attitude. I come across this through a lot of these pseudo-Vedantins. There's one famous fellow who owns billions of dollars of industry, and he was giving this kind of lecture. It's all, every time I said we ought to do this, he would say it's all mithya and maya anyway. So I said, tomorrow you take the shares of your company, bring it and change your name and put my name and give it to me. And he said, no. I said, but it is all mithya and maya anyway. Then another guy, a doctor, he was talking like this. So I said, it's like saying that if you're supposed to give 10 ml injection, you can give 1,000. It is just a couple of shunyas at the end. How does it matter? So he said, but it could kill the patient. I said, but whether he's dead or alive, it's only mithya. And he said, but I could go to jail. I said, whether you're in the jail or out of jail is only mithya. The point I'm making is, when it is their selfish interest, they know the difference of vyavharik. And they're not giving you some lofty paramarthik logic for the vyavharik. We have to live vyavharik also. But when it is a time to sacrifice for something big, something beyond selfish, then they give you this logic of Advait. So suddenly there is this Advait mode when it is time to take action for other people, for responsibility over Samaj or something. And then there is the other switch called, no, I'm very practical guy, vyavharik level. So this is the pseudo-Vedantin problem, which also has prevented our intellectuals from doing serious Purva Paksha. Now, there is this political correctness that everything is same, all religions are the same, which I criticize quite a lot. And that also has prevented us from a solid tradition of Purva Paksha of these different faiths that are attacking us all the time. And then there are people who are very bombastic. We are so great. We have been great for 5,000 years. Nothing can happen. Arrogance. And I tell them that forget 5,000 years, even 2,000 years ago, we were 5 times the size. Because we were from Afghanistan to Bali. And from Mount Kailash to Sri Lanka. 5 times the area. And now, even the area we have could be under threat for further partitions. So if we are shrinking, 80% gone already, and still under threat, how can you say, we are this great, this shlok, and we are the devatas protect us? It's sort of abrogation, abandonment of responsibility. This is a very common problem we have. Then glorifying the past as though that glorified era solves our problem today. This is another escape mechanism. Then there are people who sort of blame the other side. You cannot say it is the fault of the bowlers who can make our batsmen out. It is not their fault. The bowlers are doing their job. The bowlers who get us out are doing their job for their team. We have to upgrade our batting. We have to upgrade our response. So you can never, in a civilizational battle, you can never blame the other side for doing this to us, doing that to us, because of course they will do that to us. How can we change them? We cannot change them. We have to improve our own game. So this is very important, and you cannot, many of these meetings I go to consist of these kind of problems I'm listing for you. Then our scholars did not study the intellectual categories and frameworks of the other side. They have studied us. We think they're doing us a favor. When they are doing Purva Paksha on us, we are so grateful, thinking, "Arey bhai, I must be very important." They're doing, they're studying me. So I used to tell one guy, it's like, if CBI comes, you can say, they brought 10 people to study me. 10 people to study me. And after they studied me for a month or two, then they decided I'm important, and they brought 20 people. They're increasing the study of me. I am very special. So you see, we don't realize that when we are being studied, the power lies with the person who's doing the studying. the one with the drishti, the one whose siddhant is being applied on us. We are the data. They are the process. They control the process. They control the result. We are the data being fed. So it's not like we are like the microbe under the microscope. You're looking at something. That guy can feel very happy that I'm being watched. It's almost inferiority complex. We feel that if we are being ignored, then there is something wrong. Suddenly the world is watching us as though it's doing us a favor. After 9/11, there was a big demand in the CIA for people who knew Urdu and Pashtun and Punjabi, because they wanted to intercept those dialogue and translate and all that. So suddenly on all the Indian TV channels, lot of ads. Of course, it didn't say CIA; they have front organizations. Lot of ads. If you are speaker of these languages, lot of jobs for you. So Indian newspaper very proudly saying, Americans love our languages. Times of India articles that George Bush announces increase in funding for learning Hindi and Urdu and Pashtun, as if it's doing us a favor. So being studied by others is part of their Purva Paksha on us, to understand us. And we think we're very proud that this is happening, you see. So now, why I've talked to a lot of scholars. One of them says that the Arthashastra was our mechanism for training leaders in strategy and understanding the other. And the Arthashastra we stopped teaching. And only recently, in the last couple 100 years, 150 years, an original copy of Arthashastra in Sanskrit was discovered. It had been missing. There was no copy of Arthashastra known for several centuries, which means it was not being taught. Why it was disappeared, who made it disappear, we don't know. But for some reason, the teaching of Arthashastra disappeared. So some scholars say that the reason for all this lack of Purva Paksha is because Arthashastra was the text where you study strategy about how to defeat others. Similarly, Panchatantra has been a traditional method for children through stories to learn, how to be clever, how to negotiate, how to talk back. And so these kind of methods of learning, along with Mahabharata, which I think is a very important strategic tool, these Arthashastra, Mahabharata, Panchatantra need to be reintroduced in our education system. We have a lot on other areas which are very nice and important, but these need to be introduced, so we are back in the skill of reversing our gaze and looking at others, understanding them, having reasonable confidence, suspicion, being able to figure it out. Now, if I look at the Western era to see what happened to the Kurukshetra, there are two phases. The first phase starts with Sir William Jones in the late 1700s. British, supposedly the first European Sanskrit scholar. He only spent 1 year or so, 2 years, and claimed to have mastered Sanskrit. He came to India and learned Sanskrit. He was judge of the British Supreme Court of India. The British set up a Supreme Court of India in Calcutta, and he was judge. So he had to make judgments, and he wanted to make it sound like he's judging using Hindu law. So he learned Sanskrit, he hired a bunch of people to explain to him, and he claimed to be the lawgiver of India. He claimed to be the person who gave the Hindus their laws. And the cover of the book, it is explained in the book actually. This is a very famous carving, Sir William Jones and the Pandits. It's in Oxford University. On a big wall inside a chapel, there is this carving, Sir William Jones sitting on a throne, writing down and dictating, and Pandit sitting on the floor taking his dictation. And it says that he gave the Hindus their laws. As if but what he had done is a distorted version of Manusmriti and various other smritis. He cut paste from here and there and claimed to be the lawgiver. So this starts a huge era of Indology, Sanskrit studies. He's also full of praise for Sanskrit. He loves it, it's a beautiful language. But he wants to fit all the Hindu texts, all the Sanskrit texts into biblical framework. So he's one of those guys who loves Sanskrit and the Sanskrit texts because he feels that they are part of the global biblical framework. So he wants to legitimize Christianity and has to make sure that the Hindus also fit somewhere within the Christian framework. And so he actually argues with his fellow British people in support of Sanskrit and Hinduism as some kind of a subset of Christianity. So he does that. But certain things don't fit, like some deities can't fit, you can't fit the deities into the monotheism. So those he's very upset and he rejects them, and he says that some Brahmins have introduced this pollution later. But the original was very Christian type of stuff. This is his idea. So you can praise him. Some of our people are very happy with him because he says praiseworthy things. But when you go deep into it, it sets the foundation for distortion. And this starts the era of Indology. I have a whole separate book on the history of Indology. I don't want to go into that because that's not what this book is about. A whole separate book I've been writing for a long time, a history of Indology. So anyway, this era of of European Indology goes on for a long time. Max Muller comes, he starts the Aryan theory, all these kind of things happen. And then today, my book says that the European Orientalism is their construction of the Orient, construction of India and Asia as the Orient, their imagined idea of who we are. So my book says that the first Orientalism by Europe ended and a new Orientalism by America started. So now we live in the age of American Orientalism. And so my book is on who are these American Orientalists. It has never been studied before because people in India who study post-colonial theory and all that, they look at the colonial era Orientalists. They don't look at American Orientalists because many of them are funded by the American Orientalists. Many of them are doing coolie work for American Orientalists. So they're not going to criticize or analyze their own paymasters. So I'm doing that, which is making American Orientalists very uncomfortable, which is why they're angry and fighting, but they're getting their Indian coolies to do the dirty work. So I call them sepoys because the sepoys were working for the British. These are the intellectual sepoys today, who are working for the new Orientalism. So this is my analysis. What we have is today, well, a product of the Orientalism started since William Jones was the Aryan theory, the Dravidian theory. So you can't say all this is just academic and does not make a difference. It makes a difference on our lives. They are the ones who created this. There was no concept of a Dravidian theory until before the British era. In thousands of years of Tamil texts and Vedic and Sanskrit texts and whatnot, there is no concept of this, that these are Aryan, these are Dravidian. There's no concept like that. Not one text you can find where prior to the European era, people from within our culture, within our tradition, were problematizing this kind of a divisiveness. It didn't exist. And the caste idea is also a product of Indology because we had Varna, we had Jati. But caste is a European construction. And collapsing a two-dimensional structure of Jatis and Varna into one linear caste structure is a product of Indology. So many products of Indology are like that. The whole idea of Nazism demonizing the swastik. In India, I'm very happy. We have swastik everywhere. We have no reason to apologize. No reason to apologize. And every time I get a chance to address Americans, I talk about swastik and try to correct their understanding, no matter how unpopular it is. My foundation was bringing American students, school students to India, Haridwar and so on, in the 15 years ago, 20 years ago. And so Many of them were Jewish people. So when they came to India, I made it a point to point out that, look, behind that truck, he's got swastika. On that shop, he got swastika. This matchbox, swastika. To explain to them that for us, it's a sacred symbol. And they started understanding. And when they went back to US, we had a big set of slide presentation by students to the school and the parents. And I told them you should talk about all this. It scandalized a lot of the teachers and parents that, oh, you know, this fellow is teaching them this horrible swastika. So, a few years later, Swami Dayanand Saraswati was having a Hindu-Jewish dialogue in Delhi, then in Jerusalem, then in London, then in New York. And so he asked me to be part of the Hindu team. And before the meeting with the Jewish side, we had our own meeting. And Swamiji asked every one of the Hindus, what should we present? So most of the people wanted to present things like, we're all one, we believe in one God and whatnot. I said, but it really doesn't achieve anything. We should put on the table something strong that we want to educate them. So one of the things I wanted to present is, I wanted to present on what is swastika, why Hitler's swastika is not the real, not the swastika. We have a right to the swastika. And the argument I gave is that if some terror group appropriates the Statue of Liberty as their symbol, then Americans are not supposed to apologize. Why would Americans apologize? It is their symbol. Or if the Star of David, which is the Jewish symbol, were misappropriated by somebody, why would they apologize? They would not forget their Star of David. So most of the Hindus said, no, 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 it's very dangerous. Swamiji said, no, you do it. You do it. So this first summit was in one of these big hotels in Delhi. So the Jewish side would speak, then the Hindu side would speak, then they would speak, then we would speak. So after all this, then Swamiji gave me the thing and said, now go, say it. So I knew exactly what he wants me to say. So I said it very straight. And this is in the proceedings. All my talk is in the proceedings of that summit. The Hindu side on one side, the Jewish side was sitting on the other side, of facing each other. The Hindu side were so scandalized. And some were looking like this, each other, some were trying to give me a hint, you know, what are you saying? After the talk was over, the Jewish side were applauded. The chief rabbi, whose cabinet rank in Israel, said, this is a very important talk. We'd like to study more. Can we get more research done? So a joint team was set up of their scholars and our scholars for 1 year to come up with a joint paper to support what I had said. So you see, the thing is that sometimes our people are the ones who are scared. It's more difficult to get our people. Convincing the other side is easier. I've had many situations where I'm saying something, the Indian sitting there is all fighting me or fighting me. Then I go quietly and get the Chinese on my side, the Japanese on my side. Yeah. You know, I was chair of the New Jersey State has a Department of Education, similar to like our HRD. And so they set up an Asian Studies Commission. I was the chair, Asian Studies. Because Asia becoming very important, they should introduce in the school. It was all Western history only. So I was chair. And I said we should introduce all these important things about Asia, the Asian contributions, you know, in all kind of fields. So when we were doing this working committee, the objections came from two leftist Indians. They said, no, no, but we should talk about Dalits. We are killing our women. I said, but when they teach Western history, they don't talk about slavery, they don't talk about genocide, because they're teaching young kids, they talk about pride of their heritage. So why should the Hindu sitting in class be feeling embarrassed that all kind of negative things about him? We should be able to talk about the great accomplishments of our civilization. So there was this issue. I had a private meeting in my house without these two fellows. And I invited, there was one lady from Thailand, one from Vietnam, there was a Japanese, there was Chinese, Philippines. And I told them that, do you guys agree with me or not? They all agreed. They said, there's no problem. So I said, now, next time we have a meeting, I'll keep quiet. You please present this point of view. So they are the ones who sold this idea. And then the two Indians resigned and left. So you see, this is a problem I'm facing all the time. Now, the result of this whole thing is that the rules of Indology, if you think of Indology as a system, as a industry or as of research and knowledge production, it's like a game where one side makes the rules of what constitutes scholarship. They appoint the referees. All the journals controlled by the West, journals on Sanskrit studies, journals on India, Asian studies, the most prestigious journals are controlled from US or Europe. The most prestigious academic chairs are over there. The best, most prestigious place to get a PhD are to go overseas and get the most Sanskrit people tell me, if they had a choice, Indians, they would go to Oxford or Harvard or Columbia to get their PhD rather than from India. So we have outsourced our own knowledge about ourselves to other people. So this is a very strange system we have. I call it loss of adhikar. We lost our adhikar foolishly. So every other major civilization controls its discourse. China, on the Mandarin language, it's in China, Confucian logic, Confucian thought, Taoism, history of China, it's all in their hands. They control the journals, they control the big conferences. Everybody in the world wants to go and be blessed by the Chinese. If the Chinese don't like you, they'll blacklist you, your career is finished. It's not that the Chinese have to go to Harvard to learn about China, it's the other way around. Similarly, French, you study French according to what the French want to say. Russia, they teach it in Russian, and the Russian history and all that is taught, controlled by the Russians. The study of Persian is in the Persian language, not in English. The study of Arabic is in Arabic. Only the study of Sanskrit is in English, including my book, including my talk. Because we are so colonized that to have a voice in the international discussion, we have to speak in the language they know, so we can at least get heard. Because the control of this discussion belongs elsewhere. So what has happened is, the people who are insiders are not in control. The people who are outsiders are in control. Insiders versus outsiders is the theme of this book. And I want the insiders to talk back. So far what is happening is, outsiders are in control. By insiders I mean those with Shraddha, those with sadhana, those who say it's my heritage, those who are invested, those who do bhakti, do yagna, do whatever things anybody does. They are the insiders. But they are not controlling this discourse as far as serious academic work is concerned, which is what educates the media. Most of these media stars that you see on TV, they have gone journalism degrees from places like Columbia and Oxford and so on. Most of these, Barkat Dutt went to Columbia, all these kind of people. So it's not just in academics, it's also in media. A lot of people, they send their kids, So the influence is there throughout Indian society of what the West is saying about us. The West are the knowledge producers about our civilization, and we are the consumers. We used to be the knowledge producers in places like Nalanda and Takshashila. We were the R&D and the knowledge producers, and everybody in the world would come and learn from us. Now it's the other way around. We are the knowledge consumers. We are trying to import knowledge, even about Indology, import knowledge. So I've coined this phrase, Swadeshi Indology. Like right now we have Videshi Indology, and we should have Swadeshi Indology. In fact, what I suggested to Mohanji was that the topic of my talk was Swadeshi Indology. That is my topic of my talk for today. So the transfer of adhikar from insiders to outsiders is what troubles me a great deal. Now, I won't have time for going to the second part of the book, which is what are the specific problems, concrete examples, or the third part, which is what are the solutions. But I'm giving 7 talks in the next few days. Mohanji fit me every day, every hour. He says, okay, you can't have 1 hour idle, we'll put you over there. So give more talks, which is also in a way good because I can say more things. So it is like my 7 talks are like a lecture series, and those who can should attend other ones also, because I will say different things. Some similar things for people who are new, but then focus on different things. So before I start the Q&A, I want to close with one important anecdote. Why I wrote this book. And that tells you in a summary the whole problem. I wrote this book because in 2014, around July or August, I got an email that $4 or $5 million have been raised by rich NRIs in New York to fund Adi Shankara chairs in Columbia University, and it would be controlled, the decision making on the content would be controlled by certain Western Indologists who are actually the target of my research. My Purva Paksha is on their work, and what is wrong with it, and why they're compromising, how they've taken over the field, how they are calling the shots. They've got all these sepoys they've trained and sent them here. I'm doing all this research on them. And here are my fellow Indians funding them with millions of dollars to become the caretakers of Adi Shankara's legacy in the West. It's almost like appointing your opponent as your ambassador. It's a stupid thing. It's a stupid thing to do. So I wrote saying, have you done Purva Paksha of these people? And of course they had not. They didn't even know what that means. So then I used their terminology because they are investors in big millions of dollars of ventures. So I said, have you done due diligence? That is Purva Paksha. Have you done due diligence? And they kind of, why, they're nice people, we go and have lunch, they're very sweet, they talk to us nicely. I said, but you will never invest your money in a hotel or an airline or a factory because they're nice people. You will get due diligence done. And they understood that. Some of them are investment bankers. So I said, your investment bank advising a client to invest, the first thing they'll say is we have to go and do due diligence, for which you'll charge a lot of money. That's how you make your money. You will not say that we had a nice lunch with them, they were very nice people, they're very hospitable, friendly guys, let's go invest. So in the same way, before you invest in selling out the heritage of Adi Shankara, you got to do due diligence on who are these people, what research they produced, what are their ideologies, are you aligned with it, is it fair to Adi Shankara, is it unfair to Adi Shankara, will it be a distortion? You need to do that. And I'm in the business of doing that. I'm not charging you any money, but I need time. Give me time and I will produce a report. I wanted to do a quick 50-page, 100-page report. And as I got into it, it turned into a 500-page book. So this book is my Purva Paksha of the people who they were going to put in charge of Adi Shankara chairs. And these guys, instead of being grateful to me, got very angry at me. I'm spoiling their deal. I'm spoiling their deal. Because for them, getting this chair, putting money, getting this chair, getting Shankaracharya to bless it and all that, enhances their stature in New York as important people who are doing all these good things, put their name as some on the chair some way, some committee and all that, and their kids can get to good schools maybe, or they can get business deals or whatever it is, I don't know. But they get publicity in a positive way. And to me, our heritage is not for sale. We cannot sell it because some guy with money. So I didn't like this, and I said, I don't care if they hate me, if they are angry at me, I am going to fight. So I started writing emails and so on, and a lot of people protested. A lot of my supporters, they wrote letters to Shankaracharya and Sringeri Mutt saying, don't do this, don't do that. And they attacked me instead of the administrators, not Shankaracharya himself. The administrators get angry at me. So in the very beginning chapter is why I wrote this book. I'm describing the story. It's like a very intense drama. You read it and you will really be surprised at what went on. and what I had to go through. So I decided I'll go visit Shankaracharya. Mohanji came along, one guy from Canada with me, one or two others. We've had an appointment with Shankaracharya. We had to go bypass the chief administrator because he was on the side of the Americans. The main administrator people wanted to do this deal. And they said they have Shankaracharya's blessings. And once he gives blessings, according to the rules, he cannot change his mind. So the deal is done. You have no chance. But I wanted to hear it from him. And when I told this to Shankaracharya, it was clear to me he had not been briefed fully. Maybe they gave him some little bit of information. But all the things I'm telling, what I mentioned to him very quickly, the issues, I said, if you give the adhikar, it has to be given to people who would be qualified as teachers according to your own parampara, according to your own sampradaya. So if somebody in your mattha, in your pitham, in your university would be disqualified because of whatever reason, maybe his lifestyle, maybe his ideology, maybe he's not qualified, then why would you fund him just because he's a white guy sitting in a prestigious Ivy League? You should put the same criteria for representing you in the rest of the world as you would on a teacher right here in your own campus. And then if they can accept that, you do it. If they can't accept it, then you are compromising your integrity. And Shankaracharya was very clear that he didn't approve of those guys because he didn't say anything clearly. He said, I gave him some examples of their views. I read out some examples of what they're writing, scholarship in Western Indology. And Shankaracharya clearly said this is all distortion, they don't know. So I did not get either response that he'll support their chair or not support their chair. It's not in my position. Who am I to ask Shankaracharya to change his mind or to make up his mind one way or the other? I'm just a humble guy trying to provide him my insight on Purva Paksha of Western Indology. And my only request was, please wait until my report comes out and then you can decide whichever way you want. Because I can't really let him decide. And in any case, he would decide. So now the book is out. It has been 15 months, 18 months. When I was informed of that chair being set up, I was told that it is going to be signed and officially announced in a big event within 4 weeks. So obviously, that didn't happen. Whether it has been killed or whether it has been delayed until my book comes out, I don't know. I hope they've changed their mind and they won't do it. If we have succeeded in stopping that from happening, I want you to know it will be the biggest accomplishment of my whole life. Because the plan, what I was told is that like there are 4 pithams here, 4, they will go to 4 Ivy Leagues and set them up, 1 chair here, there. And once they've done this for Adi Shankara, they'll do it for Ramanuja also, they'll do it for this guy, that guy. All the big lineages, they will take over the global representation and interpretation for the modern 21st century. They'll put it in prestigious places and keep all the matthas happy and give them something in return to keep them happy and fly them to the US and give them a lot of clapping and make them feel very proud. And we would be sold out. Our tradition would be gone. And if we can stop this, because Sringeri is the highest place to start, if we can stop this, then it will set a precedence in our favor. If we cannot stop this, it will set a precedence in their favor. So this is a very, very big thing, and I don't know the outcome, but this is the biggest battle for Sanskrit for which I'm writing this book. This is the biggest. So I also feel that we have problems which I've described in this book, with our own people, including Sanskrit scholars, having inferiority complex, and therefore the West is superior, having introverted, we don't want to fight, we don't want to argue, so they don't want to do Purva Paksha, that is what it amounts to, including ignorance. Some can't read English, most of them can't read English, or can't read the idiom, the heavy, serious English. Hardly any Sanskrit scholar I came across, traditional one, could understand the convoluted theories that these people are writing, because in these convoluted theories, they are quoting Western thinkers. You cannot, it's like somebody wanting to study Vedanta, he has to study so many commentaries and so many thinkers and so many points and counterpoints to really understand it. Because if a person from within our tradition is writing something, he's mentioning so many names and so many thinkers. If an outsider comes, he has to study all of them. Same is true in the other direction. If you want to read Western Indologists, they are quoting Western scholars from centuries ago. And so the Indian traditionalist doesn't have any idea what they're saying. You see, so they could be on the surface saying very nice, polite things, very beautiful language, like that kind of stuff. But what they are saying deep inside is not what the traditionalists would agree with. Yeah? But our traditionalists are not equipped to do that. Also, some of the scholars are sold out. I hate to say this, but some of the scholars are sold out. In fact, I lost a few friendships with some traditional scholars because they were very, very nice to me. We were very nice to each other. But the moment I told them who are the Western Indologists that I'm targeting and doing this Purva Paksha, they quickly stopped talking to me because I was on the wrong side as far as they're concerned. They're on the other side. So some of these Western Indologists got Padam Shri, Padam Bhushan awards. Yeah. Some of them have been on the big, organized, institutionalized mechanisms, supposedly reviving Sanskrit, promoting Sanskrit. But their idea of reviving Sanskrit is a Sanskrit without the Paramarthika, a secularized Sanskrit. So I have a section in this book called Return of the Charvakas. Return of the Charvakas. Because Charvakas were the people who rejected the Vedas, materialistic. They were solid knowledge in Sanskrit, but philosophically opposed to this spiritual, the sacredness. Didn't see Vedas as legitimate Shruti. That was their position. So today's atheists dominating the Western Indology study of Sanskrit, no matter how much they know Sanskrit, no matter how much they praise Sanskrit, the bottom line is they're like the Charvakas as far as their ideological framework is concerned. So it is the return of the Charvakas. And by calling them Charvakas, I'm actually giving them a tribute because Charvakas are very well-known scholars, good scholars. So I'm also able to be politically correct with them. I'm also able to do the same thing to them. I'm able to say, you are Charvakas. Yeah? But these Charvakas are more dangerous than the previous ones. They are modern, very wealthy, lot of material power, political clout, sitting in Ivy Leagues with lot of prestige, controlling the discourse, yeah, filled with, and unlike the previous Charvakas, those previous Charvakas did not have, their writings were not filled with some Western or foreign ideology. It was their own. They were not quoting some scholars from another country. So they were not confusing the Vedic scholars. At least it was level playing field. It was fair. But these new Charvakas is unfair to us because they have the advantage of money, prestige, clout, and they have the advantage that they are always writing in a kind of idiom and using a framework which is alien to our own people. So our people feel left out and can't figure out how to talk back. So this new Charvaka era is where I would fit secularists, Marxists, leftists. That is the return of the Charvakas. Now, if you say it this way, then you can tell the traditional scholar, you should respond to them because we responded to them once before. If we responded to the Charvakas long ago, these guys are more sophisticated Charvakas. You should please get up and do some Purva Paksha. So the purpose of this book is not insulting the other guys. Actually, I'm very full of respect for them. Because like Charvakas, they are shaking us up. They're shaking us up, they're provoking us, they're giving us all kinds of, counter arguments to our tradition. It is up to us to respond to them. So my call to action in this book is not on the other side, that you should stop and all that. Why should they stop? They have their intellectual freedom, they can continue. I have no problem with it. My call to action is on the traditional scholars saying, you better get out of your silos, you better wake up, you better get active and into this Purva Paksha of those guys. Then we have an even. field. Now, the most important Western scholar in this area that I am targeting and talking about Purva Paksha is the man named Sheldon Pollock, that many of you may not have heard about. But just like 15 years ago, you never heard of Wendy Doniger, and everybody heard now. Because when I first wrote about Wendy Doniger, they said, why does she matter? Who is she? Who cares? I'm getting the same feelings about Sheldon Pollock, but I'll promise to you, within 2 years after this book is out, all kind of Indian scholars will be talking about Sheldon Pollock. And I have no disrespect. I disagree with his views. It is nothing personal. It's very clear. Nothing personal. I meet him, we have coffee, we have a friendly demeanor. And so when I told him that my goal is to start the Purva Paksha, he said, good, I've never stopped them. They never did it. I said, no traditionalist has critiqued your work in a serious way. And he says, after he thought about it, he said, yeah. I said, that is not right, because you are writing for 30 years, 40 years and become so important in penetrating the Indian psyche with your ideologies, but nobody has responded to you. You know what he said? He said, I never stopped them. I never stopped them. And he's right. He never stopped. Our traditionalists never did it. But he never said, don't do it. So then I said to him, I will make you very famous. Because, and this is the hallmark of a great scholar, that there'll be a lot of people now buying your books and reading it and giving responses, and we'll have seminars and you come and we'll have good back and forth. And I honestly mean it. That is what I would like to do. I would like to create a home team of intellectual Kshatriyas who are grounded in our tradition, but who also study. So I think with that I will stop. Thank you very much, and then we'll take some questions. Thank you.